I say a question?
No, let's just go ahead. I'm just going to go down and we're going to talk about the answers real quick. All right, I don't think today's lesson's that hard either. All right, so here we go. So it says PRYZ is a rhombus and RK is 5. Now, because it's a rhombus, all right, I'm going to go ahead. If RK is 5, then I know what? KZ is also what? 5. I also like in a rhombus, the diagonals are perpendicular. I like to just make myself that note. All right. Then RY is what? 13, right? Which means
PZ is 13.
all of them are 13. What?
All of the segments in the diagonals also like the 4 segments.
No, that's a good mistake. Listen to me. And here's what I want you to visualize. All right. When you have a square, look, and you tilt, one diagonal gets what? Longer, and one gets what? Shorter. Same thing with a rectangle. All right? All right? Or a parallelogram. If you draw it, as soon as you start to tilt, one diagonal gets bigger than the other. All right? Diagonals are equal. Diagonals are equal in a rectangle. Right? And we can prove that by side. All right? And in the square. That's exactly right. Because they're vertical. All right? Or they're perpendicular. So now it says YRZ. So I'm going to find YRZ, all right, is 67. So again, keep in mind, if that's 67, then this over here must be 23. You agree with that?
Yeah.
Right? Now, this is the thing that I try to teach kids, because when you take the exam, does everybody agree there's no way to remember all the rules? It's just not going to happen. All right? So I always try to show you how to figure things out. This still is a parallelogram. Does everybody agree with me?
Yeah.
So that means this angle down here has to be what? Exactly. Everybody see that? Right? And so if this is 23, then this guy over here is what? 23. That's exactly right. Alternate interior angles. And then you can prove that the triangles are equal, right? So then we know that this over here is going to have to be what? 23, right? And then this guy over here is going to be what? 67, 67, and 23. All right? Actually, I made a mistake on that. That's not correct. No. You're right. I did make a mistake. Very good. Thank you. All right. The diagonals bisect each other. So let me fix this. So that was 23. That made this guy 67. Thank you very much. No, this over here is going to be what? 67. Right? This here is going to be what? 23. This here is going to be 67, 67, 23, and 23. So that showed you what? That showed you that if what I had originally put was true, that would make it a square. Everybody see that, right? But it's, that's why I knew it wasn't a square, right? Quickly, what? The diagonals bisect each other. The diagonals bisect each other.
So I get that, but then if it's 67 and then 23, then you have a completely different shape. Is it just an error?
No. So what I want to do is, I want to try to show you this now, because I think this helped me. What I want to do now is, please look up for a second so I can show you, because honestly, I think when we take an exam, everything is a blur. There's going to be 7 or 8 chapters on the exam. All right, so I need you to listen. All right, look right here. I'm going to erase this for a second, and I'm going to try to show you something. Because it's a rhombus, right, this is equal to this. Do you agree with that? Which means this has to equal that. You with me?
Yeah.
All right, so that's how I kind of figured that out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say on that? Yeah. Right? So now what I'm going to do is, because that helped me, I'm going to just go ahead and put it back now the way it was. What? Go.
Rhombus, the diagonals are perpendicular bisectors, right?
Yes.
And on squares, but not on rectangles.
Correct. They're not perpendicular. They're not perpendicular to each other. Their diagonals are not perpendicular to each other. Correct. Yeah. That's what you were saying, right? The diagonals bisect each other, but they're not.
No, I'm talking about the angles. The diagonals bisect the angles.
For a rhombus, that is true.
And a square.
We just proved, yes.
Alright.
And that's what I was trying to say. We just proved that.
But not alright.
The rectangle's diagonals are not perpendicular. Oh, you're right. The angles. You're right. I see what you're saying now. The angles, the diagonals do not bisect the rectangle. And what I used to do for kids on that is I used to say, draw yourself a long, skinny rectangle if you're ever unsure about something. And then when you draw the diagonal, to me, it's easy that it's not. It's not. Yes.
Okay. How do you know it's not a square?
Well, no. She's right.
Squares be wrong.
Square is a rhombus, right? So, I know it's not a square because of what I just demonstrated up here. All right, and what I mean by that is this is equal to this, correct? Which forces this angle to be the same as this angle. Watch what I'm doing now. Let me go through that because I really messed it up and I feel bad about that. Watch. This angle was 23 right here, right?
Yeah.
So this is how I figured everything out. I knew it was a parallelogram, so I knew that had to be 23. This right here are equal. Therefore, this has to be 23. Correct? So now I know it's not a square. Because that's 46 degrees, not 90. That's how I knew immediately as soon as I wrote that up there, what I said.
But it can't be degrees because...
Yeah, it is degrees.
Then how's it 67 to 67?
Well, because if that's 67 and that's 60...
The shape would be like... That's what I was saying.
Oh, yeah. I'm not... you're right. So, listen. No, I'm agreeing with you on that. That just means it's really tilted.
Yeah.
You with me on that? So again, if I were to help this company, I could help them with their figures because I would want things to look right for kids. But that doesn't understand, right? But I also think that it's good to hear what I was trying to tell some of you guys if you're listening. How when you take an exam, all of it's going to run together. You're not going to remember all the 1,000 rules. You're just not. So every figure, you got to be able to figure things out. Right? You should be able to tell me the diagonals of a rectangle are congruent, but they don't bisect the angle. Because you can prove that quickly. You can prove it quickly. All right? That's what we're trying to do. Yes?
So for the exam, when are we going to start? How many days?
Oh, no, I'm not worried about the exam. Go. What? Joe, you got something?
Oh, yeah. You said the one angle has to be 43.
Exactly.
Why does it have to be 43?
So are you asking me about why does this have to be 23?
No,
Because it's an isosceles triangle. This side is equal to this side. Do you agree with me or not?
Yeah.
Because it is a what? Rhombus. You hear me? Good for you. What?
What was the answer to KY?
Well, let me just go back and get everything back up there. Okay, there's everything. So KY would be 12 because we would do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. All right. Quick, come on, Carter.
It's also 23 because it's like a right triangle.
That's
So the
exactly,
two have to add.
that's exactly correct. There's so many ways. That's why I'm trying to tell you, man. If I could tell you guys something, you're just stop trying to memorize everything and just. That's what I'm doing up here most of the time. Is I'm just figuring things out. All right.
Okay, so can you explain again how
Yes. Again, you ready? So as soon as they told me this angle right here was 23 degrees, I knew this had to be 23.
Yeah.
You understand that, right? Now, if that's 23, this over here has to be 23 because alternate interior angles are congruent. So now 23 plus 23 is 46, not 90. It can't be a square. Yes. All right. So I think that answer is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That's when we labeled everything out. And we know that ky is 12, right? Because we did the Pythagorean theorem, right? What? And what? Yes, of course. pk is 12.
13 and 5, right?
Yes.
And then the lateral was AP.
13 is the hypotenuse.
So it's
A squared.
blank squared plus the other.
Yep. All right. Here we go. What? Okay. So it's a right triangle, and many years ago we did a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And one leg is 5, the unknown leg, and the hypotenuse.
Wait, why?
Go ahead, tell me.
Why is it 13 squared B?
Because it is the hypotenuse. It's opposite the 9 degrees.
Oh, okay.
C is the only one that has to be, it's not interchangeable. A and B, the legs, are interchangeable. The legs are interchangeable. All right? Quickly.
So the number is
So I'm going to look at that. Y, K, Z has to be 90. The diagonals of a rhombus are perpendicular.
because it's a right triangle.
That's correct. All right, now let's go down to 5, 6, 7, and 8. So if PQ is 3 radical 2 and AP is 3, wow. Again, it's a rhombus, right? So those are, right? So now we're practicing 3 squared plus b squared equals 3 radical 2 squared. Everybody hearing me? 3 squared is 9. Very good. So b squared is 9. So b is what? 3. So believe it or not, that's 3.
How do we? So then it,
So that makes that 3, which makes that 3. So now instead of it being a rhombus, I know it is a square. Tell me.
Can you just work it back?
Yeah, so what's 3 squared? What's the square root of 2 squared? 9 times 2. Right? Yes.
if it's equal, if A is equal to AP, then how do you
Yes. So this is the right angle. Opposite the right angle is always the hypotenuse. Right? Okay.
I shall
That's all right. And so now, AQ is 3. Angle APQ, no, wait a minute. APQ is 45. MNP is 90. And PM is 6. Very good. Yes, quickly. Come on.
Why is it 45?
Half of 90. You see it or not? Half of 90. It's a square. We've determined that it's a square.
Got it.
All right? So the diagonals of a rhombus bisect the angle. Thank you, Trey. Come on, Mr. Butler, you're doing well. Let's go. Spit it out. What do you need?
I don't really understand why.
What? You have to tell me, speak. Tell me what you want to know.
Why is it half?
Because it's a rhombus, and the diagonals of a rhombus bisect. And we just said it. So, do you agree that it's a square? Sure. It's a square. So, if I draw the diagonal, it would bisect 90 degrees. And half of 90 is 45. Of what? Tell me, what angle? So, A, P, Q. It's asking for this angle. That's 45. Right? And again, I see, because You have to be careful with what angle you're looking at. Owen, let's go.
So MNQ is 90 to the top, and then A is like top.
45. Yes, we just determined it was a square, right? All right, it's a square, so the angles are 90. Half of 90 is 45. Bless you. All right, so listen, I don't want to spend time right now. If we need to, we can review the rhombus, the rectangle, or the square. All right, but I've wasted, I'm not wasted, but we've spent a lot of time. I want to get to the next worksheet.
Just 9.
I'm honestly, I just want you to draw it out
I know I did, but it's wrong.
and look at it.
That's why you did.
Well, I mean, if it's a rhombus, right? If it's a rhombus, the consecutive sides are not going to be perpendicular. Right? The slopes. Find the slopes of each side. The slopes of each side are not going to be negative reciprocal.
Okay.
You with me on that?
Yeah.
So, if it's a square, the diagonals will be equal. There's so many ways to look at it. Come on, girl. If it's a rectangle, then opposite sides are going to be equal. If it's a rhombus, all sides are equal. So once you determine if it's a rhombus, you now have to determine if it's a square. So all you do is you look at the slopes, and the slopes have to be negative reciprocal. And they're not. All right? I don't think. You with me? All right. But we'll look at it again. There's some more tomorrow. We got 2 days to review, and I'll be happy to do that. But I just don't want to. I don't want to miss this. Is everybody 6'6", right? Is it posted up there? Ready? All right. So everybody take a look at this. All right. Now we have 2 shapes today. We're going to talk about trapezoid and a kite. All right. First of all, the trapezoid, a parallelogram, has 2 sides, or opposite sides are parallel in a parallelogram. So a trapezoid, only one pair of opposite sides are parallel, and the other pair are not parallel. Everybody with me on that? All right. Then a kite is just when you have consecutive sides are equal. All right. Consecutive sides are equal. So what exactly does that mean? All right. Here is what we're looking at here for your kite. So in your kite, we would say these 2 things are equal, and these 2 things are equal. So it's not a parallelogram. Opposite sides. None of the sides are parallel. Everybody with me on that? All right. So there's some interesting characteristics. All right. So we will talk about that. But let's go back up here real quick for the trapezoids. All right. And then we have very important, there's a mid-segment or the median of the trapezoid. That just means this. If you were to draw, right, if you were to draw the midpoint, or if you would find the midpoint of TU, and you would find the midpoint of SR, and you would draw that line straight across, what does it look to be? It looks like it is what? Very good. Parallel. All right? It is parallel to the bases. All right? It's parallel to the bases. And the other thing that it is the mid-segment is the average of the bases. All right? So the mid-segment would be base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2. That is the length of the mid-segment. That's the length of the mid-segment. The mid-segment is simply the average of the 2 bases. All right? So again, the mid-segment is drawn by finding the midpoints of the trapezoid. And the mid-segment is always parallel to the bases. All right? And it is the average of the 2 bases. All right? Now, in a trapezoid here, I want to make sure this is clear. This is called a base angle, and this is called a what? Base angle. Those do not have to be the same measure unless it is an isosceles trapezoid. All right, an isosceles trapezoid just means that these sides are equal. everybody with me on that? All right? Those sides are equal. This over here, believe it or not, is also the base angles. Is everybody with me? Right, there are two bases. That's exactly correct. There are two bases, so there are base angles here. Now listen to me. This is going to sound weird. These are base angles, and these are base angles. Are these base angles? This one here, the top one, and the bottom one. Are those base angles? No, they are not. They are not. Those are always supplementary, right? Because those are consecutive interior angles, right? This is parallel, don't forget. This is parallel to this. Therefore, these are consecutive interior angles, so they are supplementary. If it is isosceles trapezoid, right, the two base angles here are equal, and the two base angles on the top are equal, right? And B and A are still supplementary, and C and D are supplementary. All right, lots of rules. All right. So now, if we're down here, this is an example of an isosceles trapezoid. All right. So angle D is the same as angle what? C. Everybody with me? Angle B would have to be what? 125. So angle D would be 55. That's how simple that is. All right. You cannot do that unless it was isosceles.
How do you know it's like cutting it down diagonal?
Yes, that's one way. All right. Here we go, over here. Now, this is telling you, because it's 5 and 5, it's isosceles. So angle L is 140. But still, it doesn't even matter anyway. We didn't have to know that that was isosceles. Everybody agree?
Yeah.
It's on the same side. Exactly correct. It's on the same side. All right? Now, for each quadrilateral, the given vertices verify that the quadrilateral is a trapezoid and determine whether the figure is isosceles. All right. So let's come back to that for a second because I'll draw that out in a minute. All right. And we'll do number 4 together. All right. But now let's look at number 5. If HJ is 32 and LK is 60, because it's a mid-segment, right, those two things are equal, then it's the average of the bases. So I believe it is correct. What is it? I think it's 46. All right, somebody happy with that? Right? Now, the next one is easy. All right, so let's put the numbers in here. So now we have HJ is 18 and MN is 28. I would want everybody to look at that and just say that's obviously what? 38, right? Tell you that was? Because here's how I teach kids. From 18 to 28 is just how many? 10. Everybody with me? If it's in the middle, it's got to go another 10. Right? So that's the easiest way to do that. All right? Yes.
Is MN always like halfway?
Yes. If it's a mid-segment, that's why I call it mid-segment. It's in the middle. All right? But it is a mid-segment because it is the midpoint of the two sides. All right? I want to go down to kites real quick and let's explain this. All right. Now, a couple of quick things. A kite is a quadrilateral with exactly 2 pairs of consecutive congruent sides. Nothing is parallel here. But interesting enough, if you were to draw the diagonals, what looks to be true about the diagonals? Yes, these are perpendicular. Do you agree with that? Right. And again, I always try to tell kids there's no way to remember all this information. Right. So if you draw it out, because this is a kite, this has to be equal to this down here. Does everybody agree? Which forces this is reflexive, right? So now we can say, yeah, the two triangles on the right are congruent, and the two triangles on the what? Left are congruent. The top triangle and the bottom triangle are congruent. Is everybody with me? So now, if you can see that, now you can see that this diagonal bisects, you agree? But this diagonal does not bisect that. Does everybody agree with me?
Why doesn't that bisect that?
Come on, come on, come on. So look, it should make sense because, listen to me, this is equal to this, right? This is equal to this, correct? But these two angles don't necessarily have to be the same.
Okay.
You would be on that, right? Right,
On the right
exactly.
side, it would bisect, right?
Yes, but the top triangle, this diagonal, and again, we could spend lots of time going over proofs on that. We could prove that's all true. You agree with me? Right, that's what I'm trying to say. Essentially what I'm trying to ask you to do now is to write the proof in your head. Right, that's what I'm trying to get you to see. All of these are proven facts, and we could easily do that. Right? Now, and that's the other thing I'm trying to get you to realize too. A lot of times when you take your exam, you can base it off of observation. All right, you can base it off observation. But again, does everybody understand how it's so easy to prove that Rn bisects the angles? Right? Because all you'd have to do is prove the triangles are congruent. All right, hopefully you understand what I'm saying on that. All right, so we learned a lot about that. All right, we learned a lot. Now, I'm trying to see if there's anything else important. No, so let's go down to this little piece right here. All right, so it's a kite. So the first thing I would draw here is this is congruent to this. These two are congruent, and that's 90 degrees. And then if you want, just to make yourself, that's congruent to that. And these angles are congruent. All right, that's what you should know, given that it's a kite. All right. Now, from that, it says JRK. That's obviously what? 90, good. If RJ is 3. Hold on a minute. And RK is 10. Yes. So square root of 109. Perfect. That's what I want you to say. Square root of 109. Everybody see that as the hypotenuse, right? No.
This is all like makes sense.
Wait,
It
but
does, right? Should be.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes,
on
I'm
the
listening.
on that one of the problems they had it like where
No, I know, because 109 doesn't. 109 is prime.
Oh, okay.
You with me? If you can break it down, we always do. Yes.
When you have a squared plus b squared with c squared, you say you can't square root a squared.
That's exactly right. You have to add them first.
Would you?
Right, because you can't. So this is what I try to tell kids. 3 squared plus 4 squared always equals 5 squared. 3 plus 4 does not equal 5. Right, that's the easy way to remember that. All right. So again, angle GHJ is 90. And so if that's 90, that makes them both 45. Thank you. That's 45, and that would be 45. Angle GKJ. I'm trying to find these real quick. GKJ. Yeah, that's really kind of, yeah, that's kind of dumb, but let's go ahead and put 55. And then we want HGK. That's kind of easy, right? Because 55 plus 45.
Yeah, it'd be 100, maybe 80.
100, right. So that's 80. Is everybody comfortable with that? Okay, so now HJ is 7, so HG is 7. Now, if HG is 7 and GR is 5, HR is the square root of, yeah, 24. Square root of 24. And this one we can break down to 2 radical 6. Come on now. I really want you guys to be good enough to just look at that and say that's radical 24.
That's 49 minus 25.
49 minus 25 is 24. Because 1's the hypotenuse.
Oh, but
All right. So last one. Angle GHJ. Hold on a second. Let me find this. GHJ is 52, so I'm just going to make it 26. And GKJ, well, it's the same problem essentially, isn't it? Is 95. Right.
And it's like an opposite.
I know. So that's, what, 47.5? And then we want H. Yeah, it's the same principle. Right. Now, one way to do that, guys, look right here. These angles are equal here. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Right, so you could take 95 plus 52 is 147. Subtract it from 360, which is, what, 213. And then divide by 2, which is 106.5. There's so many ways to do these problems. So many ways. All right, 106.5. All right, now how much time do we have?
I think like 10 minutes.
Okay, so listen. Okay, so here is the only thing I want to do, because I don't see a lot of the verifies, which is good for me. So let's do 6.6. Everybody listen up. I want you to do all of this. 1 through 10. And then I want you to do the easy problems over here, which is 1 through 6. All right. So there's only this one up here I want you to verify, but it's a trapezoid. So draw that out and then determine if it's an isosceles trapezoid, which I think is pretty kind of easy. Everybody with me on that? So here's what I want you to do: 1 through 10 and 1 through 6. Again, remember what I'm trying to tell you about: learning the rules, observations. All right. Then tomorrow and what did I say? Tomorrow's Wednesday and Thursday. We're reviewing the chapter. No, yes. Well, Wednesday and Thursday, and there's test Friday. Yes. Wow. No, actually, I almost have the review done. I'm going to post it.
Like exam review?
Oh, yeah. The reason why I don't want to do IXL for exam review is because those aren't the same exact questions that are going to be on the test.
But we need grade. Yeah, we need grade.
Get busy. Make an A on this test.
Review package.
Yeah.
We'll do something.
Or 50% of the exam.